that we can do together. Hey, Dajit. Let's do a meditation. And I'd like to do a meditation for people who don't understand what's going on the planet, who are definitely filled with anger. Hey, Andromeda. Oh my God, I'm going to invite you. I'm going to invite Andromeda. Hey, Andromeda.
Morning from London.
Good morning. So good to. So I just came off a live with a certain group of people that are very angry about what's going on with Gaza. So I wanted to do a guided meditation because we need to, at any cost, unify people, no matter what their religion.
Yeah.
And so I was jumping on because I wanted to do some chakra work, and then to somehow unify. Because when I didn't realize, I'm naive actually. I'm very naive about people still. The concept of saying the word kumbaya actually is a cynical, negative stance. And because star seeds like us believe in past lives, and we've known that we've embodied every race, every gender, every religion, there are certain people that don't believe in that. And that's their jail, in my opinion. What are your opinions, Andromeda?
I agree. I think one of the things that divides humans is dogma. If we become free of that and we recognize that all beliefs are sacred, all religions are sacred, all humans are sacred, that's the key to unity consciousness. And I was lurking on that live.
Oh, good. So, and I had to
Yeah.
step out because
Yeah.
I'm actually so sad. I'm realizing how fucked we are if we allow this energy to proliferate. Because it's funny. You had your shaman. I had my healer today, and my healer told me that. And if you want to share what happened to you, or privately, it's whatever you decide. But I'm going to share with you guys what my healer said.
Yeah.
She said we have to transmute this energy of absolute anger and hate and pierce through these bodies, these 3D filtered bodies, right? These dogmatic bodies, and cling to the source. And then from source hits, from our higher self, go to source, and from source bring down real truth and real power to manifest. But as long as we become defensive, angry, and angry in a place that's impotent, and rejecting love from other people who are not our same faith, and this is something, if we don't, I'm not talking about having one religion, actually, not at all. I'm talking about having all the religions, all the religions thriving, and people having a higher perspective of these beautiful, incredible, loving religions that were originally there to heal people, not to separate people and not to hurt people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, look at Christianity, right? As a almost like an index example. You know, Christianity based on the teachings and the life of Yeshua, of course, heavily edited in favor of, a patriarchal church.
Right. Yeah.
But what did Yeshua teach?
Yeah.
He taught about love. He taught about acceptance. He taught about healing.
Right.
He meditated. He fasted.
Yeah.
And where is this consciousness in people's interpretation and practice of their own religion? It becomes mechanistic. It becomes automated. People aren't really thinking about the basis of their religions or what it means. Now, I respect everybody's
Yeah.
right to express themselves in whatever way they want to, whether that is as a pagan, as a Judaism, Islam, Christianity, Wiccan, whatever,
Right.
atheist, whatever. But the point is that we all need to recognize that the original source of all religions is source.
Exactly.
And that
And then we all
unifies
want
us.
the same things, right?
Exactly.
We all want to thrive. We all want not to be genocided. We all want to win an idea. We all want to live either in peace, or if you don't like what I have to say, then go over there. I won't bother you. You won't bother me, and we will respect each other's right to thrive.
Yeah. And respect each other's right to express as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think how we express our beliefs is it's a very important part of becoming authentic.
Yes.
Um, Developing your relationship with your God source energy, the universe, whatever you choose to see it as.
Yeah.
Excuse the sirens in London.
That's beautiful. No, it's like pay attention.
There's a bit of confirmation from the Metropolitan Police there. Um, but yeah, I think it's kind of I like you get a little bit sad.
I got sad over
Yeah.
this. That actually was a slap in the face of reality to let me understand this inability to want to reach out. And I was making a point about Malcolm X going to Mecca, because Malcolm X had a right to be angry. Okay, this was, I don't know if you guys know who Malcolm X is, but he was an African American, definitely biracial. You could see it. So there's a lot of history behind that one too, by the way, with slavery and all of that. Okay, let's be real. So during the Jim Crow law, and he became Muslim in jail. I believe he became Muslim. I think I'm correct.
You
And
are.
and he ended up going traveling to Europe, and of course, every Muslim, they have to go to Mecca, right? So he went to Mecca, and he really, really did not like. And I'm telling you the story how my mother met Malcolm X. I'm going to tell you guys, and he went to Mecca, and he said, and it's in the movie also, you can see it. He said, I realized that my Muslim brothers also had blonde hair, blue eyes. So he finally realized it had nothing to do with the color of your skin. It had to do with the content of your character, which, Martin Luther King had said very well. So anyway, my mom was in a restaurant in Paris in the 1960s, and this beautiful man, Malcolm X, had a beautiful smile. It was very charismatic. My father, who was friends with him, and he said, "Oh, you want to meet Malcolm X?" And my mom went, "Oh, he hates white people." My mother was white, hates white people, and my father laughed and said, "No, he doesn't." And they introduced her to, my father, she said he was the most amazing man. He came back to America with a new understanding. Okay, whatever racism and anger he had, input in racism, which was rightly experienced in America during the Jim Crow, rightly, okay, no problem. But he came back a transformed man, and I believe 3-4 weeks later he was assassinated. Because maybe his message was going to be, and he was against, I forgot who it was that was the leader of the Muslim movement for the African Americans, but he went against him, and he was going to do his own Muslim type of temple, you know what I'm saying? He was going to go on an offshoot and away from that dogmatic belief and racism, and he just, boom, he was unalivened, as they like to say. What are your feelings about since you were able to kind of check it out? What was your feelings? What do you think I could have done better to make them understand? Or what could we do to make people understand and to unify people? Because we can't keep doing this fucking divide and conquer shit. That's not going to work.
No, I mean, unity is dangerous. This is why anybody who has tried to harness unity, whether it was Malcolm X or Fred Hampton from the Black Panther Party, as soon as people can no longer be marginalized, and as soon as they unite, it threatens the 1%. But unfortunately,
Yeah.
what happened on that live is that we saw the effect of dogma, and we saw the divisive effect of dogma.
Yeah.
Organized religions, unfortunately, have been used for millennia
Yeah.
to control,
Yeah.
to keep people in fear,
It's
you know,
frightening.
in fear of themselves. I mean, being brought up Catholic, Catholicism is all about fear. It's all about guilt.
Yeah.
You're born with original sin.
Can you imagine?
If you don't get your baby baptized, that baby will end up in limbo.
Right.
Won't be able to ascend to heaven. This is what Catholics are taught, and so they are controlled by
Yeah.
that fear. They're controlled by having to go to mass every Sunday and hear a sermon by a priest that is often indoctrination.
Hmm.
Um, and while I respect everybody's religion,
Absolutely.
we have to understand that there are forces within religious organizations that are there to divide us.
Yeah, that's
They're
right.
there, they're there to divide us as a human race. Malcolm X is a fantastic example, as was so Fred Hampton.
Hmm.
Um, he was he was the leader of the Black Panther Party,
Hmm.
and he was unalivened, I think, by the CIA or the FBI,
Yeah.
whatever, right? And
Yeah.
this happened when he recognized that there was a class struggle, and
Hmm.
this class struggle united poor white people with poor black people. As soon as he started having meetings
Hmm.
with people of other colors, as soon as he became a figure that could no longer be marginalized and no longer labeled as an extremist, he
Right.
became extremely dangerous, and
Hmm.
he was unalivened
It's
in,
sad.
in his bed beside his pregnant girlfriend.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Um, so this is what they fear most. And
Mhm.
I worry about people who parrot dogma, because
Yeah.
all they're puppets.
Yeah.
And it's really sad,
Yeah.
because we could do so much good as a 99%, we could do so much good.
Exactly. That's my point. It's like, this is crazy. It's like, how many cycles of 100-year cycle, 100-year wars, 100 years genocides do we need to go through before we finally unify as one people? And still walk in your religion. Be Christian, be Jewish, be Muslim, be Hindu, be Wicca, be pagan, whatever the hell you want. I don't give a shit. The real question to me is, why do you need a religion to give you the concept of morality, which is, I would never hurt someone, I would never steal from someone, I would never cheat someone, I would want to treat them with honor. If they are begging, or if they are broke, or if they need a place to stay, my house is open. That's just humanity, for Christ's sake. That I don't need anyone, any scriptures to tell me that's how you act. I don't need.
Yeah.
I've had friends literally say, I'm flying in from India. I got no place. I'm like, come on home. Just come on in. I got you. It's tight. Don't get me wrong. It's tight. I've been in these situations with friends where they need. To me, and I know you're like that too. And I know many of you listening are like that too. In fact, there's benefits to that, because you're building community, you're building friendship, but also, most importantly, you're helping someone who needs a roof over their head, or who needs a meal, or he needs a couple, $100 or whatever they need. And I don't need any written dogma to tell me that, okay, do it because it says so here. No, I do it because my heart says so, and it doesn't deviate tomorrow. And that's, I think, what it's breaking my heart to hear that people have to have a written thing that tells them what to do, and how to act. And yet, for you and me, and for Tony, and for Jen, and for other people, Rachel and other people like that, we don't need that. We just do it.
No, but this is learned helplessness, unfortunately.
Is it?
Um, I think so. I think that people, I mean, a lot of people, so we do good because that's what we do, right?
Right.
It's just us expressing our authentic selves. We're not thinking, okay, well, if I do this good thing, I will get good karma, right? Which is a complete misconception of what karma is anyway. But but this is what a lot of people think. A lot of people think that if they do good, good will come back to them. Now it will, but that's not the point. But certainly within organized religions, they're afraid of not doing the right thing because they're afraid of what will happen to them in the afterlife. So their good
Yeah.
intentions are
This fear.
their good
Right.
actions are coming from a place of fear rather than from a place of love and gratitude.
Right. Exactly. In fact, I know one friend of mine who's afraid of giving because she's afraid of being bound by karma to a homeless person. I'm like, are you for real? Like, you're not going to give this person, like, I don't know, like a jug of water and a sandwich because you're afraid that in the next life they're going to owe you. Yeah, I can't wrap my head around some of the logic.
Yeah, I saw a video on TikTok that somebody was saying, oh, they gave a homeless person this amount of money, and then they lost so much money because they interfered with this person's karma. It's like, what? What?
Whatever.
Seriously? Like,
Yeah.
what are people being taught?
Yeah.
What are people thinking if they think that helping a homeless person is interfering with their karma? Again, this goes down to looking at certain people as deserving, as undeserving,
Yeah.
dividing us, looking at as if there's some kind of hierarchy of humanity, and
Yeah.
this is rife within the spiritual community, and it's toxic.
It's toxic. It's really toxic because let me put it this way, it's common sense. If that person is put in front of you, it's your karma and your free will to make a decision. Whatever decision is your free will, but that person's in front of you. If it was their karma not to be helped, you would not be standing in front of them. You would not be seeing them. That's the thing. Don't you think? I mean,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I mean, like my twin, for example, my twin has been homeless. So he cannot pass a homeless person by if he has something to give them.
I love that.
And this is because he's a pure soul, and he can't see other people suffering and not help if he's able to. There are times that we're not able to, and for people like you and I, Tony, that hurts. It hurts when we're not able to help other people. And I think that this is what happened today. You were simply talking about unity, and unfortunately some people took that as an
Yeah.
attack on their religion, and that's not down to you. That is down to,
Yeah.
unfortunately, a media and a propaganda campaign against a certain group of people,
Yeah, that's true.
and
That's true.
the defenses are naturally up.
Yeah.
So when anything then further, if they perceive a further threat or any diminishment of
Yeah.
their right to express themselves and express their religion,
Yeah.
then there is a reaction. And this is, as spiritual people, we have to respond rather than react, don't we? We have to, ask ourselves, okay, what is this trying to teach me? What is this situation showing me? And how should I react? Or sorry, how should I respond, not react? How should I respond in order to bring peace and harmony and growth to this situation?
Yeah. Exactly. I agree. And it's interesting because I could see, and I did apologize because I could see that kind of energy coming out from a rage, a point of I don't need to prove that my humanity. But the thing is, that's exactly the kind of despairing. It's not an it's an impotent rage. It's not a righteous rage.
Yeah,
And the impotent rage, at that point, you become a victim. And that's not to say, I mean, African Americans were victim for fucking hundreds of years, as were the Japanese during the internment camp, as were the most egregious between the American African American slaves and the indigenous people of this country, of this land. What was done to their children, how the whole it's funny because I read an article a while back, probably about 20 years ago, about the way you destroy people is take away their language. And when I look at what happened to Ireland, when I look at right, because it was outlawed to speak Gaelic, am I correct?
it is. Yeah, it was.
Right? Okay. When I look at what happened, because there were Muslim Africans, okay, who could speak, Arabic, okay. People don't know that for whatever reason, but whatever language they were speaking, whatever they were practicing in terms of religion, it was outlawed. And so when you do that, the soul of a person is taken, hostage forever, and it can be quite. It can actually that trauma can reverberate into next right future incarnations. Yeah.
Yeah, the this idea of taking people's sense of self
Hmm.
is another method of control.
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter where it's coming from. It doesn't matter if it's say happening on a small scale in an abusive relationship. All right. If you think about what happens in an abusive relationship, about control, about taking away somebody's autonomy, taking away their sense of self, often this person is afraid to speak.
Yeah.
I've been there. I know what I'm talking about
Yeah.
with this. And this is what's happening on a larger scale. When you take away people's language, when you take away their culture,
Yeah.
when you take away very fundamental things like funereal rights,
Yeah.
okay, which is actually what's happening in Gaza, for example.
Right.
When you take away these things, people's sense of self, it diminishes, and they despair,
Yeah.
and they can't self-actualize. Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, I mean some of it, but I do know that within 24 hours, there's got to be a right, a burial within 24 hours. And some people have been trapped in the rubble, and that will never happen. And now that these Zionists and these soldiers are coming in with their tanks, bulldozing, they'll never have the chance to actually make it right. It's horrific what's happening.
It is horrific, and this is all about decimating a people, and you don't just decimate them with physical destruction. You decimate their morale, and that's exactly what's happening. And this is what imperialists and colonialists have done
Yeah.
throughout the centuries.
Yeah.
You know, and it did happen in Ireland. It happened in Ireland where people were not allowed to speak Irish. Gaelic games were outlawed. And I mean, for God's sake, Gaelic football was outlawed, like really,
Yeah.
because it was assembly, because it was expression of culture. And this is what they sought to suppress.
Right.
But people eventually, people eventually rise up. We just hope that they rise up unified.
Exactly. Exactly, because if we allow this divide and conquer, which they've been very successful for 2,000 years or more, and it was very understandable because that we didn't have these little communication tools we take for granted. So it was easy to do that, right? It was easy to divide and conquer villages, Protestants against Catholics, and on and on and on and went. But now there's no excuse. We should be smarter. Oh no, I wasn't kicked out, sweetie. I left. I left, Jane. I wasn't kicked out. I left. I basically wrote to her and said, I'm sorry if I offended you. I didn't mean to offend you. And I just, I'm not her enemy. I'm not these people's enemies. No, no, it's okay. I'm not anyone's enemy. I'm the enemy of pedophiles. If you're a pedophile, you're dead to me. Okay, there's no conversation. If you're that's bad, bad. I have zero tolerance for that. Zero. The other zero tolerance is people who think it's okay to genocide people. Yeah, that's a zero tolerance for me. And I don't care what race or religions, I don't care what the hell you are. I will stand to make sure that I document it. When Katrina, I don't know if you know this, Andromeda Flame, we had the Bush family, Papa Bush and his Mama Bush, if you know President Bush. We had the Katrina hurricanes that decimated New Orleans, and it displaced a lot of Creole people, people of mixed race, and African American people, and all kinds of people were displaced. But during the confusion, that was my first foray into realizing the absolute inhumanity of what we think is normal. We had helicopters who were over, to show the scene of the water and women. I mean, mothers with their babies on the roof that had been there for 2, 3 days, and babies were dehydrated, and no one would land or even throw a basket to bring, in other words, to rescue the children, if nothing else. Okay. And finally, they were put in a big auditorium, a sports auditorium, and I'll never forget this. Mama Bush said, "Well, they're not used to better than this, and this is probably the best they'll have." It was almost like a let and eat cake moment. And then of course they was bussed out to Texas, and they were bussed out to all kinds of other states, like they were nothing but it was subunion shit.
Yeah, I
So
remember it well. I
I
remember it
don't
really
feel,
well.
yeah, so it's like no one protested that. No one said a fucking thing about that. No one said anything. When Rwanda happened during President Clinton, no one had cell phones. This was in the 90s. No one had cell phones. I don't think there's any real records of what it looked like, but I believe it was almost 1 million Rwandans that were genocided, and no one really said a thing. There are people fighting all over the world. I've never seen anything like it. And they encompass all kinds of countries, religions, backgrounds, this, that, and the other, who are fighting for the right of the Palestinians to thrive. And my thing is, let's honor everyone that's doing that. Let's honor our brothers and sisters who recognize the inhumanity of what's going on. And for whatever reason, I offended these people. So it was like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah, and that's hard. Katrina, there were actually, protests and funds and stuff organized in the UK during Katrina, because that was just naked racism. That was really
Yeah.
was naked racism. And interestingly, the Bush government did not send enough medical aid to New Orleans at the time, and Cuba actually sent doctors. Cuba
Yeah.
sent
Wow.
doctors. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Because one of the only or one of the most powerful exports Cuba has are doctors. Their medical training is second to none, actually. So so they sent doctors to the poor people of New Orleans when Bush wouldn't. Um, and I remember, I can't remember her first name, but Mrs. Bush, the first lady or whatever.
Yeah.
I remember her saying that, and it was disgusting. It was disgusting how they could treat their citizens in this way. And if they can treat their citizens in this way because they're brown and because they're poor, if they
Hmm.
can treat their citizens in this way, what on earth do we think they're going to do to citizens elsewhere? Like
Exactly.
to people, to
Exactly.
people
Exactly.
to whom they have no duty of care.
Yeah.
Um, but I have my opinions on American healthcare and American criminal justice, which I'll leave
Yeah.
for another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, um,
I mean, at the end I remember seeing, I'm going to tell you a funny story, because as this was happening, right? As this was happening, there was a Times Magazine article. I swear to God, my son was like, I think 2 or 3 years old, right? And in the Times article, there's a black woman running down the street holding her baby on her hip. Now, I thought it was something out of Zaire or Rwanda or some other. And then I looked down and it said New Orleans. I went, holy shit. That was the beginning of me realizing that this country didn't give one fuck about its citizen. That was my head. Now, Jim Crow, you would have thought I would have gotten a sense of that, right? Because I thought, well, maybe this country had its growing pains, right? You would kind of like try to make, I don't know, like find some kind of silver lining in that kind of bullshit. Right after slavery, there was the Jim Crow law, right? Which was devastating to a lot of African Americans, absolutely devastating. But when I saw that, that's when I got the light. Like I was, yeah, I don't know what people think this is, but they've just told us through New Orleans that we don't matter. That's when I went down the rabbit hole of the 1%. That's when that started.
yeah. The I think when you look at American society, right? America's the number one economy in the world,
Hmm.
and 50 million a year go bankrupt because of medical costs.
Hmm.
50 million people. Homelessness on the rise. The other thing that's really interesting is if you look at, medical statistics of life expectancy and infant mortality, the life expectancy in the US and infant mortality, they're worse than Cuba, right? And Cuba is a poor country that has faced, you know, embargoes on medical supplies, etc., for decades now. And this is all to do with enhancing division and inequality. You know, the sooner we start recognizing everybody as equal, or everybody has an equal right to food, to shelter, to safety, you know, proper education, not indoctrination, self-determination and expression, the sooner we recognize all of this and we move away from this fake imposed scarcity that we are all seeing at the moment, then we can actually progress as a species, help the planet, save the planet, stop wars,
Yeah.
stop cruelty, stop suffering.
Yeah.
This is the world that we, you know, not just dream of, but this is the world that we're manifesting.
Yeah. And we can do it if we don't allow the divide and conquer strategies of anger, of impotent anger. Impotent anger it's powerless. It doesn't work. Righteous anger has its purpose, but the minute you start feeling that you are the only one that's fighting for your cause and that you're completely all alone, then sadly that becomes true, and sadly you're bereft. You're out in the desert, you know, trying to find your tribe and going, well, why am I fighting alone? It's because you're not opening your eyes that you're not alone, but you're not accepting what these new forces of people that are surrounding you are. You know, if you're homophobic or whatever, but here be right next to you is somebody who's gay, but who has your moral values on multiple things. They want the best for people. They love it. What's I don't understand. What in the fuck is the problem? I don't get how people have no moral. They'll have moral values based on how you live your life, who you go to bed with, who you pray to. And if you don't do exactly what they do, somehow your moral values aren't worthy. It means I don't know. Am I crazy?
No, and you know, if you look at, say, right, if you look within spirituality, if you look at twin flames, for example, okay,
Yeah.
you have, you know, you've got same-sex twins, you've got
Yeah.
trans twins,
Exactly.
and all of that love is sacred. All of that love is, you know, it is equally important for the planet. You know, the twin flame journey, it is all about unity, consciousness, non-judgment. You know, it's not all love and light, but it's about love and light, right?
That's the goal.
Um, and you know, we have to embody that non-judgment. This is unconditional love. Okay, when you learn unconditional love for yourself, for your twin, you
Yeah.
can extend that outwards, and it doesn't matter what god somebody worships, what language they speak, what color their skin is, how
Yeah.
they choose to dress, what their tastes are, how
That's
they
it.
who they choose to sleep with.
Yeah.
As long as they are treating those around them with love and
Yeah.
respect, nothing else matters.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's funny because I was looking at again this idea, and you guys have, I don't know how old some of you are, but the way they spoke about certain people, like for example, the way they spoke about Russians because of the Iron Curtain, as if there were not human beings. I remember, I think McDonald's, or I forgot which company had done that. I'm not gonna. It was one of these burger companies, and they were showing beautiful girls going down the catwalk, and they were saying American, and beautiful woman walking down, graceful, and this and that, and they're Russian, and she looked like a big monster. Well, it was funny when the Iron Curtain fell because people were in awe, going, "Oh my God, these women are fucking beautiful!" Like, what the fuck were we given? We were handed that all these women were like bulls, you know, like these big, you know, 600-pound, muscular wrestler type of women, and some of the most beautiful women, right, are from Russia. It was like a shock. So, and they've done that, and they, meaning the 1%, have been systematically separating us so that we are suspicious of anyone who does anything or who looks like anything. There's a man, you must have known him. I forgot if it's Sean King who said that. I think it was Sean King being interviewed. And he talked about Khalid, Grandpa Khalid and Reem, the soul of my soul, his granddaughter that had died, and his grandson Tariq. And he said this man was the embodiment of everything we've been taught to hate and distrust. And he literally, his beautiful eyes, his beautiful way, his ability to show us the grace and the faith of Allah, God, Allah, and how he showed the world that yes, this happened, but he had more faith in God's wisdom and he was in surrender. And within like a week, you see this man helping other people. He can't help his the passing of his babies, right? His daughter, his entire family basically was destroyed except for one of his grandsons. And he's out there in the hospital helping. God, I hope to God this man survives, because he should get the Nobel Peace Prize at the end of this. You know what I mean? He's shown the world how to, things that most of us would have lost our shit. You know what I mean? We would have gone Sarah Connor, if you know what I'm saying. Most of us. So he's taught us unconditional love, unconditional trust in God. And I think these are the lessons that were being shown. And when we become so angry and frustrated and impotent in our rage, and we try to denigrate the tears. I mean, I'm seeing women who are Christian who are becoming Muslim, by the way. And they're women that are Jewish, there are women that are Japanese, there are women that are in the Tao movement, right? Taoists, Chinese, right? And women, they're Irish, they're African American women who go to the Baptist church sobbing, saying, I don't know if I can do Christmas this year. And for us not to honor that and to say, we're lucky because we've had a lot of genocide, no one gave a shit, but today someone does. A whole world has become a village. And it's almost like you could say we're all from Palestine and we all have, we all, our hearts are there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that beautiful grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
see, a soul like that leads through his example. And a soul like that, the world needs souls like that. A soul like that raises everybody's vibration and actually raises humanity.
Yes.
He will never understand how important he
No.
is and how inspiring he is even through that horrific grief, a grief that most of us can't imagine, losing our entire family in the blink of an eye. Most of us cannot imagine that grief. But through his grief, he has turned that into love. He has shown us physical transmutation. And it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it really is gorgeous. So because there's a lot of people that were being interviewed saying, in fact, there was a particular young man, I forgot his name, an American, and he said I think he was on Joe Rogan, yeah, Joe Rogan, and he said, if you did that to my family, I'd go after you. I'd go after you, totally after you. So I'm gonna read a comment that Jane said. How's everyone? We're good. Thank you so much, Trisha. Which I will do more of a deep dive as to why I wanted her respect. I having a feeling as to why. Jane, honestly, don't disrespect people. I'm going to say it out loud. When people lose their shit out of anger, like that's why I just stepped away, because I wasn't going to continue because it was a dead end street. But it also clarified, because it's funny because there was Andromeda, you heard it too. I kept bringing up Jewish people, Irish people, black people, this, that. They didn't want me to bring that up. And they thought I was trying to dilute the story. No, I was trying to say that we understand because of these histories. And do you understand? And so when people are impotent in their rage and they want to exclude you from you wanting to reach out and help them, they're like slapping your hand away because they're so angry at you. Yeah, you don't disrespect them. You realize they're coming from a vantage point and they're not ready to accept help from outside the tribe, the group, whatever. And that's what many of us as starseeds have come in to stop. We've come in on a massive scale to say, no, 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 no. We have to unify. We have to lock arms. We have to be brothers and sisters. And I don't care what you believe in, as long as you're not here to harm children or defenseless, as long as you want everyone to thrive, as long as you're not a greedy idiot and you know there's an abundance for everything, for everyone. As long as you're there, you're my buddy. I walk beside you, right?
Yeah, and look, the Galactic Council is, they're watching us.
Yeah, they sure
They're,
are.
they're watching what we do. Um, and actually, if you listen hard enough, those of us who are starseeds, you can hear their guidance.
Yeah,
Um, but they want Earth to do well.
of
Okay,
course.
that's
Yeah,
why that's why we're here.
yeah.
They want Earth to ascend. They've had enough of, the negative influences on Earth, and they want to aid ascension, which is why so many starseeds and twin flames are here.
Hmm.
That's what we're here to do.
That's right.
And sometimes that means facing derision. Um, it sometimes means having your intentions questioned, but that's okay. We're kind of used to that by now.
Oh, totally.
Um,
Well, I mean, I'm always in shock when I see people who choose anger and impotent. I can see being angry because I've had my moments of absolute pure rage, but I honestly believe that we don't have time for this rhetoric anymore. We've seen 2,000 years of this bullshit. We saw it in Atlantis. We saw what had happened. Nothing happened that was good. We actually regressed from 5D to 3D, for Christ's sakes. We lost powers to our chakras. We actually had certain light codes shut off, like, like there was a, like, we went offline, if you will, right? We fell, okay? And because of this, and the Tower of Babylon expresses that. Remember, they talk about everyone had a common language, a common idea, a common philosophy, and there was hate once the separation occurred with language and religion and also skin color, right? And so we're not asking to be homogenized people, because when I do hypnotherapy with people, right, and they come out with a past life on another planet, we are very much the same color, yeah, like a blue race or a yellow race or a red race. I'm not joking, for real, literally. And what's really amazing about this planet is our diversity. If we can overcome the bullshit that's been fed to us for centuries, if we can actually overcome it, we get the grant. It's like standing ovation from the Galactic Council.
yeah, and Atlantis, all it took was one star seed
Oh my God, tell us.
to adopt human greed
Mm-hmm.
and thirst for power.
Yeah,
That's all it took. Um, the Atlanteans destroyed Lemuria,
yeah, that's right. I know, you're right.
um, because the Lemurians, it was a matriarchal society, and they knew how to alchemize. They
Mm-hmm.
knew how to use the power of crystals. And the Atlanteans wanted this power, but it took one star seed, just one. That shows you the power that star seeds have. But just one caused the fall of Atlantis. Atlantis fell because of greed, because of the pursuit of power, um, because of the bad traits that we see in human wars today. That's
Yeah,
what caused the fall of Atlantis. And we better believe that if we don't pull our socks up,
yeah,
that the same thing's going to happen again.
yeah.
They're not going to stand for our BS anymore.
No, they're
Uh,
not.
I had as you know, I was with my shaman
Yeah,
yesterday,
yeah, yeah,
and I'll tell you more in private,
yeah.
but that was interesting. But we extracted a reptilian from a
Oh,
human, uh,
yeah.
and the more we can harness the good and the pure
Mm-hmm.
that is within all of us,
Yeah,
even if it makes us temporarily unpopular, and it won't.
right.
But that's a fear that humans have.
Yeah,
We've all had to heal people pleasing. Um, when we heal that, and our throat chakras are open, which are being attacked right now, by the way.
Yeah.
Throat chakras are being attacked.
Oh,
But when we open our throat chakras, when we speak our truth with courage, with authenticity, with love, this is when we will co-create that new earth.
yeah.
Um, and it's so important. You know, people have this weird idea about spirituality, that it's all kind of love and light and it's all, you know, delusion and what is it? It's not. It's dirty and it's hard and it's painful, but it's necessary,
Yeah.
you know? And not all souls will awaken to their purpose. We're
No.
lucky. We're so fortunate.
Yeah, you're right. We are lucky. We're very lucky because a lot of us are here and we're aware of what needs to be healed in ourselves. And that was one of the things that was interesting. I wanted to share this other thing that my shaman said to me today. She said, my healer, she said that the darkness that we see out here, she said, we have to see it within ourselves and transmute it. Once we can see it in ourselves, right? Once we can see this, like for example, my ability to, like, I don't think I could have been like Khalid, the grandfather. Okay, I'm very blunt. Okay, and so I'm hyper aware of the darkness that could not have gone to that point on that moment. Not the way he was handling himself with Reem. Okay, this his little granddaughter and his grandson. Probably would have gone Sarah Connor. So my point, what I'm trying to say, are you back? Okay. So what I'm trying to say is it's funny that this is coming up. Once I can transmute this darkness within myself, it's like the 100 monkey theory. Other people will benefit. I might never meet them, but I would totally, once I transmute this darkness and go, Khalid taught me how to deal with this, how to have faith in source, God, how to have faith in this moment, how to surrender to that faith implicitly with no conditions. And I can see the darkness in me. My job is to work on it. And once I can work on it, I can actually help people. And that's what Khalid did in the way he moved. He showed us by just his actions. And that's what we all need to do before we can actually be as one, a massive power of love.
Yeah, and we need to understand ourselves. We need to know ourselves. This is why the spiritual journey starts with going within,
Yeah.
right? To heal our own traumas, our limiting self-beliefs, our fears, and then opening our hearts, to receive, but also to give.
Yeah.
You know,
To
that
give.
that two-way process.
Mhm.
But we've got to, yeah, I mean, I think what you did today was very important because you challenged dogma.
Yeah.
Like the people there, they didn't realize that that's what you were doing, that you were challenging dogma and saying, let's all be united. I don't know why they didn't hear that, but
It
sometimes,
was, it was weird. It was like I felt like I had just spoken in another language, like seriously, light language or something. I'm sorry. It was like and some of the things they were quoting back to me, I was saying, I don't even, if I said that, I said, but no, and I said, no, I'm not gaslighting myself. I didn't say that. There were certain things that I knew for a fact I didn't say. Like, go ahead and tell the stories of people who died so that we can prove to the world we're human. I'm sorry. That's not what it's about. It's about putting a story behind a loss. When you tell me that a poet who has a PhD, who has a family of 4 children and his beautiful wife, and they want to have a life and they just had these babies, right? And this guy wanted to wanted to be published, and all of this energy is now lost. It gives me much more of a hit in the heart than finding out on a piece of paper, right, in a newspaper, that this man, let's call him John Doe, died at 27, and and his whole family perished. So, okay, but the minute you tell me this was a man who went to, who did this and this, and wanted to be a poet. And it was really sad to me because here was a beautiful piece of poetry that was being left to someone, and the counsel was not to let the world know that this man existed, this man wrote this poem, instead to hide it from the world. That blew me away, because if somebody who I love dies and they write a piece of poem, believe me, the world's fucking gonna know that this person once lived, this person was this age, here's a picture, this is the poetry they wrote. I'd make sure people would know.
Art immortalizes us.
But also it I don't know how else to explain him. It's like, I'm thinking of Arthur Rimbaud, right? Arthur Rimbaud, the poet who actually was a surrealist poet in the 1870s. He was a French poet. He was a lover to Verlaine, who was a romantic poet who was much older than him. They were lovers. He wrote poetry from 16 to 19. Bukowski loved his poetry. Jim Morrison loved his poetry. In fact, he was celebrated. He was a huge influence in the beatnik hippie movement in this country. But what I also often remember is that his family, upon his death, he was 37 when he died. He was actually exploring in northern parts of Africa. But anyway, the point is he died at 37. And his poetry started being burned by his family. And Verlaine, thank God, had some of his poems. And if it wasn't for Verlaine, who decided to publish his poems, we would have never known he was alive. Because of his dogmatic, I'm not sure if they were Protestant or I think they were Catholic, his family was completely ashamed of his work. And lots of it didn't survive. A lot of it was burned. So to me, it's like, why not celebrate someone's life? Why not share an art piece or whatever, and just for other people that might see it and go, wow, this person passed and this was their story, and this, instead of just a name on a granite, you know what I mean? Maybe I'm a little crazy on that end, but I like to hear people's stories.
No, because our names are given, whereas, what's written on a tombstone is given to us, whereas what we create is what we give to the world, and it is an expression of who we are. It comes from our soul. When you read poetry that speaks to your soul, that has come from, that's somebody else's soul speaking to your soul.
Yeah.
Right. And the soul is immortal.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's interesting because a lot of incredible poets who long past have given me hope in this existence. It's because of their poetry, it's because of their art, it's because of their books that I took another, I decided that life was worth moving on, and to find hope, and to find that this incarnation had merit. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people are hopeless, especially now, especially our young people are really, really in massive despair. And so not to show again, it's not to say that we're showing, how do I put this? I don't even know how to put this, the humanity of someone. It's to connect people to other people, and to solidify that we're no different than others. And I've seen the way how easily it was in America to dehumanize many types of people, many people. Again, I'm not going to list it. You guys should know. But even our gay male population in the 70s, it was, if you guys want to really understand it, watch the movie Torch Song Trilogy. And this was common, where young men were beaten to pieces, to the and unalivened. It's because we have allowed our media to dehumanize certain classes of people who have tattoos, people who are homosexual, people who are who think differently, people who are geeks, people. We just constantly dehumanize each other, and we have to reject it and say we do not consent, and we need to constantly make efforts. If we are uncomfortable with a certain type of people, then I suggest that we make an effort to get to know them. Why? Because you'll find that I remember my mom got in the 1960s. My mom was French, right? And somehow in the 60s, okay, Harlem was a tough cookie. Okay, it was a tough place. It was a ghetto. in New York. And she somehow, I don't know how the fuck she ended up there with me, but I was like 3 years old. We were just visiting, for a week or two. She ended up in Harlem, and these African Americans were so kind to her and said, "Oh my God, you shouldn't be here. Let's get you a cab. Let's get you out of here." They helped her get out because they knew, and they were helping her. It's people are basically good. They want to help you. It doesn't matter what color or race or background. The average person wants to help you. And the only wall I've ever found is when the minute you pull up religions with people or philosophies of reincarnation, and if they're diehard Christians or born again or Baptists or any religion, I found that that's when they shut down. It's sad. When religion can actually destroy a person's heart in that moment, then maybe religion isn't such a good thing anymore. But if religion can make you, what's the word? Generous and open-hearted and kind, then it is good for you. But if it makes you shut down because now you don't want to hear someone else's thoughts, or you think that because you're not Christian and I'm not baptized and I must possess a demon spirit around me, or crazy ass shit like that, and you're shutting down, that to me is like, maybe that's not a good idea to follow that. I'm just, gonna put it out there. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is the thing. I heard somebody say once, the devil sits in the front row of church,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we all know those people who, will go to church and will, donate to the church, and then they'll go and they'll bitch about their neighbors, or they'll be cruel to animals, or they won't, or they'll be racist. Okay, we all know these people. Religion, if religion is going to be a force for good, it has to be a force for a higher morality.
Yeah.
Um, I think about my grandmother when we talk about this. My maternal grandmother, who, I had an Akashic reading yesterday as well, and my grandmother's very much part of my protection team.
Mm-hmm.
She was a devout Catholic. Um, I mean, very, we go to mass every day during Lent. We go to confession, and I used to, when I learned to drive at 17, that was my Sundays. I would go and pick her up and bring her to mass, and then we'd have lunch together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but she was such a morally good person. She would never have judged anybody else for anything. Her religion was her private relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
she and she used her discernment. She knew when to listen to the priest and when not to listen to the priest. Because certainly, in Belfast during the Troubles, you would get a lot of political stuff from the pulpit.
Yeah.
Um, and very often it was kind of establishment speak, really.
Right.
But she knew what to listen to and what not to listen to. She would go and she would bring sandwiches to the prisons, for example.
Wow.
Um, and when people were, struggling with food on her street, even though she didn't have anything, she would make them like a basket of sandwiches and bring it to them. She was the embodiment of everything that is good about religion. Um, she took those teachings and she lived a Christ-like existence.
Yeah. Sounds like it. And I don't think it's rare, but I don't think it's that common either. I think maybe it's a 30-40%, where I'll say 30% of people have that beautiful, not to your mother, not to your grandmother's level, of course, but to some level of, I want to be kind, I want to help. But I remember once talking to someone about giving, right? A spiritual person, like in the New Age thing, which I think it's not new. There's nothing new about New Age. It's ancient. Spirituality was here when our souls were born, and before that, and before any religion. Okay, it predecesses everything. So that's why religion can be quite interesting. It can be you've got to be very grounded in your own moral values. And then religion adds to it. Like I think, like you said, your grandmother was discerning. But anyway, this person was saying, well, I don't know if I should give anything to anyone. I said, what do you mean? Well, you know, the bootstrap theory, they should be able to, like you had just discussed, Andromeda, about how, you know, you're not supposed to help. And that's something also taught in religions where you don't share. Like you were saying, Andromeda, yesterday, you were saying about how Irish churches are still open for the homeless, but they're not open well, they're not open in America, I can tell you that. And they're not open in England, right? The churches. But in Ireland, the churches are open to keep, you know, so the homeless people can find a bench or maybe even blankets or at least shelter from the rain and the snow. There's a certain goodness that we have to keep within ourselves, and we can't allow people who tell us that to give is somehow wrong. The minute you're in front of someone and you get the hit to give, go give. There's one thing that in America you may want to do, especially if you're living in hotter climates, is to keep gallons of water in your car. I can't tell you how many homeless people I've stopped and said, would you like some water? And I have this huge gallon, you know, with a handle on it. Sometimes I give them a bag to go with it. And their face just collapse in relief. Because if you're going to choose between water and I don't know, a hot dog for 99 cents, you're going to go for the food, not the water. And it's something you can do, and it's something you should think about, because our government is not helping our homeless population. The money's not going to them, or we don't see vans. We see no vans with food trucks. We see no vans with bottled water being dispersed. We see no porta potty or portable showers. None of that is happening. Okay. The only time we see vans, from what I'm hearing right now, especially in San Francisco, this happened recently, where there were vans that came in, cleaned up a whole community of people who were homeless, and no one knows what the hell happened to them. That's what we're seeing, but nothing else. There's no kindness. So it's on us to not donate to these machines that pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars, to the heads of these, you know, nonprofits supposedly. And it's up to us as the people to be the ones that help other people. Yeah. And you don't have to worry about the karma, believe me. And you're not doing it for karma anyway. You're doing it because if it was your uncle, your brother, your sister, you'd want someone like you to help them. You know, God forbid they were homeless and you weren't alive or available to help them on that moment. Don't you think?
Yeah, and one of the reasons people don't give, one of the reasons people look away from, say, homelessness is because we all know that it could so easily happen to us.
Yeah.
We're all, you know, in the UK and the US, we're all one or two paychecks away from homelessness, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I would hope that if I was in that situation, that some kind soul would give me a bottle of water, right? Or give me a blanket or a pair of gloves.
That's
Okay.
right.
Um, you know, we really are all in this together. And one of the reasons that people, for example, it's a weird paradox. One of the reasons people find war easier to look at is because they don't believe it can happen to them.
Yeah.
But it can, right? It these wars, this destitution, displacement,
Yeah.
natural disasters, it can happen to all of us.
That's right. And we have to understand that. And the brutality of the government, and I'm ashamed, like I said, I'm half American and half French, and the fact that we've just sent out $17 billion when we have massive villages of tent cities in this country, okay? San Francisco has completely collapsed. It is one of the most dangerous cities to go into. I don't know if a lot of you know this. LA, if you go to Santa Monica, which was the pristine, gorgeous, I have friends who are moving to Orange County. I have friends moving to Mexico, for Christ's sakes, to get out, because what was a beautiful area, Southern California, LA County, their couches, people are sleeping on the bridge. It's not their fault, you see. We should have tiny homes all over the place. And there was a time 150 years ago, 200 years ago, where you could actually build yourself a little shack and no one, you know, no one gave a shit because you were settling into that area, and you were creating your little adobe, your little home, and it was like that all over the world. 300 years ago, you could somehow maneuver your way into the wilderness and take care of yourself. But today, there are people that there's no way they should be homeless. Homelessness is not normal. It's not to be accepted. It isn't. And for us to send $17 billion, because they send what is it, $4.3 billion per year, right? And another 14 emergency fund billion dollars to finance a genocide, while we have people who are literally have no medical care, who aren't going to eat tonight, who haven't eaten in 3 or 4 days. I'm seeing people that look like they've come out of concentration camps, okay, on the streets. Like, I'm telling you, it's going to be our responsibility to have compassion. And I keep singles in my wallet, and I'm thinking about how they're going to like remove the currency, right? We want currency will no longer be. I'm thinking, how the hell are these people going to panhandle? How are these people going to buy food? They don't have cards, and many of them don't even have IDs. And many of these supposed social services, many of you might think, well, they're social services. I have a friend who was homeless. He did not have an ID. Social service didn't give one fuck. I can't tell you how many agencies I called, how many people I called, how many, no one gave a fuck. And the only reason he ended up getting his ID, he went to another state, a warmer state, and within 2 weeks he got his ID. So depending on what state you live in, they don't give a fuck. Or it's like, yeah, okay, here it is, no problem. Yeah, tell us who you are. Okay, well, okay, yeah, you're approved. Boom, and that's it. It took 2 weeks. In another state, I'm not going to mention the state, he never got it. And he was out on the streets in the snow. And it was up in the East Coast, and I was losing my mind. And no one gave it. I was hung up by social services constantly. Not because I was talking like this. I was trying to be very calm, I try and keep my voice really genteel and this and that. I wanted to rip their throats out across the phone lines. I'm not kidding. But I was trying to keep my shit together because, when you want someone from these bureaucratic idiots, you got to kiss some butt. So I was willing to do it. And I can't tell you how that also showed me how there's a basic cruelty in our system. It isn't kind at all to its own people. Our veterans are being thrown out of hotels. Our veterans are not getting any mental health care. So, today we have young people who will never serve because they've seen it. They've seen it's in Vietnam. We have a whole history of it. So we have to do better for each other. We have to take care of each other because they're not going to take care of it. That's quite obvious to me. What's going on in England for you guys?
Well, it's just interesting. We have a saying over here that when America sneezes, we catch a cold, right? So the kind of the economic environment within America eventually travels over here. Margaret Thatcher, who, yeah, um,
Bloody Mary.
well, it's funny that I didn't have nightmares about monsters when I was a kid. I had nightmares about Margaret Thatcher.
Wow, that's heavy.
Um,
Wow.
she said in a very famous quote, "There's no such thing as society." And in that, she was saying, we have no responsibility to each other. We are an island. We should be just out for ourselves. She destroyed this idea of community in that
Yeah.
one quote. And of course, she was good buddies with Reagan.
Mm. Yeah,
Uh,
beautiful character.
yeah, I mean, they adopted, I mean, I'm not going to get into, economic theory and what have you, but they adopted the economics of Milton Friedman.
Mm.
Okay, and Milton Friedman was the father of neoliberalism. And
Mm.
this is a kind of a really ultra form of free market economics, where the market is king, where we have no responsibility to each other. It's the same economic model that Trevelyan used in Ireland in the 1840s, right? One of his justifications for not sending aid to the starving Irish was that
Mm.
it would interfere with market forces.
That's incredible.
Now what is the market, right? What is the market but something to control and impoverish?
Right.
right? This is the matrix, you know. Replace the word market with matrix.
Exactly. No, right on. And that's what we need to understand. We need to unify. And I'm seeing way too many people playing games of. I'm seeing people talking about diasporas. I'm seeing people talking about who was there first. I'm seeing people wasting fucking hours and hours and hours. And I mean, I'm talking about hours of lives. I mean, it goes on for like, I don't know, fucking 10 hours. It's almost like some kind of, it's weird. It's almost like again, getting people in and out talking about futile discussion based on separateness and concepts of superiority and again more separateness and the chosen one and I'm not referring to the Zionists when I say that, by the way. I'm hearing people say that word about their own whatever group of people. I don't care if it's a religion, if it's a racial background. I'm seeing shit where people should not be doing this, and it's insane shit. It is not, and they're getting. I'm going to be blunt with you guys. They're getting 2,000-3,000 views. In other words, 2,000-3,000 people watching them, listening to them, sitting there for hours. The reason I know this is because I dip in and out just to see, just because I'm trying to collect data. I'm trying to understand the collective consciousness of people who aren't discerning, who are not in their heart chakra. They're really more interested in debating, and debating is fighting, and fighting is a losing cause, and we've seen wars, right? Debates aren't it. If I have to convince you that killing unaliving 10,000 children in Palestinian children, children from the Congo, children from Russia, children from, I don't give a shit what country. If I have to convince you that there's something wrong with that, if I have to spend, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not talking because you shouldn't. It's a waste of time. I'm not here to convince you of that. If you don't have a moral compass to figure that shit out, then you probably think that I don't even want to go there because it could have me shut down right now. So
No,
it's a
you're
waste
right.
of time. So we need to gather each other, same tribe members. We all have the same philosophy, and this philosophy is very simple, right, Andromeda? If you want to share it, what is the philosophy that we all basically share? If you could like word it, because I love how you word things.
I mean, the philosophy that we should be harnessing, the philosophy we should be living is unity. And unity means equality. And unity means respect. And unity means not allowing yourself to be divided from your brothers and sisters on this planet by by human constructs, whatever those human constructs are. And actually I include some religions in that. If you look at the history of Christianity, how the the scriptures have been rewritten and edited and repackaged. The religion that we know as Christianity is a human construct.
Yeah.
And it has been used to divide for, well, millennia now.
Mm-hmm.
The word that we should be continually using is unity.
Yeah. 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 And so when people start saying kumbaya, laughing with cynical laughs and denigrating tones of voices and on the concept of kumbaya, it's a level of cynicism that will never get you off your knees. Never. Because you don't get off your when the African Americans were fighting for civil rights, okay? It took more than just African Americans to go march. Just saying the obvious. Okay, there were people of all races going out there to march, all religious background, not just Baptist. Okay, they were marching with Martin Luther King. Okay, and it took that for the civil rights to finally kick in. And it's the same with suffragettes. There was a point where men were walking with women. Okay, so we have to remember that without unity, we're fucked. Okay, let's not keep marginalizing ourselves by shutting ourselves into a little cage and go, I only hang with these people. Good luck. You're not going to go far. You're not going far at all. Right?
Yeah. And I also hear it on, from twin flames as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like the masculines this, the masculines that.
Yeah.
Bring, understand that we have we have all of this within us, right? We've got masculine, feminine, we've got light and dark, we've got good and not so good within all of us. And it's about accepting that, accepting the parts of ourselves that we don't want to face that we see in others. And
Yeah.
whether that's the homeless guy, or whether that's the person who's backstabbing and gossiping and being ridiculous, facing those parts of ourselves, accepting ourselves, and then accepting everybody around us. Without unity, we are fucked.
We are totally fucked, and that's what we need to understand. All you have to do is look at history and see what happened. You just look at the ones, what happened, like when you look at Tiananmen Square. I remember there's a documentary, I'm not even sure if it's still around to be honest, but there was a documentary that showed the breaking down. There were, I'm gonna put it, there were 7 sectors of quasi-leaders, and they all started falling apart because they were so busy trying to fight for who would be the main honcho that it collapsed. In any organized situation, you got to choose one. You better choose one. Even if you don't think they're the best, you got to support the one that other people are voting for, as long as the integrity and the flow and that person is listening to the collective group consciousness. But you have to have one leader. And I've yet to see it go where there were like 4 or 5 different leaders. The thing that was kind of messed up, in my opinion, this is my humble opinion, with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, is they were definitely at odds because, to be fair, Malcolm X had a lot of passion, and he'd been raised a certain way. The man spent time in jail. He was a little hustler. He had gone through a really hard time, whereas Martin Luther King was somewhat of a coddled gentleman. You know what I mean? He'd gone to theological school, and he had a PhD, for Christ's sake. It were totally different experiences of life. And Malcolm X was just pissed off, which, rightly so. So, but I feel that there might have been a time when they might have actually joined hands, and the minute that and like Andromeda said, when people discuss unity, which John Lennon was discussing unity, right? Imagine all the people. Yeah, they don't. It's weird. We have to be careful. We have to protect each other, but we also have to overtly and covertly talk about unity, and really reaching out and creating our tribes and creating our groups and communities, and growing our own food. Most of us don't want the jet setter's life. I mean, maybe some of you do, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not denigrating that. But I think that most of us want a simple life. We want peace. We want to see our children or grandchildren grow. We want to not be afraid of something coming in, a government telling us that we're not allowed to do that, or to treat us like the people in Palestine, the Gazan Strip, with all these checkpoints. And I know England's been talking about 15-minute cities. When I look at Gaza and I think 15-minute cities, I think of what people in England are talking about, some of the politicians on the benefits of a 15-minute city. And I believe the Australians were talking about it and almost enforcing that during the COVID lockdown. So we have to really look at this and say, what are we going to allow in 10 years from today? Because if you told me 10 years ago, if you told me that COVID and the lockdown, 3/4 of it was going to happen, I would have said, you're full of it. That'll never happen. People wouldn't accept it, and there's no way they could organize a lockdown in 3 weeks, but yet they did. So we have to kind of wake up. And what's interesting, sadly, is that the Palestinian people are waking a lot of people up to a lot of things, spiritual things, 3D matrix things, all kinds of beautiful things and awful things, very, very awful things. And the capability of politicians to literally look at the data, look at footages, and still look at you with cold, level eyes and talk about October 7th. That to me is like, that's like, I'm not talking to you. You know what I mean? Finally, some people start speaking back, going, F you on October 7th. Let's talk about everything, all the dates. And people are definitely being triggered. But you've got to make sure that you ask yourself, how much do you believe in unity? And if you don't, if you're cynical, you need to pierce into your heart and look where the darkness is, and then heal that so that you can actually rise out of your own darkness, just like I'm working on that, okay? I'm not saying that I'm walking on water, believe me.
No, can I just answer? So Christina said, but history repeats itself, right? Yes, until we stop it.
That's right.
Right. History is just cycles, and we need to start breaking those cycles. Until we embody unity consciousness, until we become unconditional love, yes, history is going to repeat itself. There are going to be more genocides, there are going to be more wars, but it's our job to stop that.
Absolutely. And again, history repeats itself is the same thing that is the problem in the spiritual community, talking about polarity, we need wars, this planet is set up on polarities, and we have to accept and also reject the kind of levels of polarity that we'll accept in our new earth. It's really simple. It's kind of like a toxic family, right? And I'll give you an example. So it's like a toxic family where there's been inappropriate shit going on, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, I think you know what I'm saying. Inappropriate stuff, intimate, inappropriate stuff through generations of children. And we could say history repeats itself, but then here comes a generation of a person, a young man or woman saying, yeah, fuck that, I'm healing that shit and it ends with me. That's it. It's over. So we can do that on a planetary scale. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and this is why we're talking. I mean, we actually have the tools now to break these cycles. 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have TikTok, right?
Nope.
15 years ago, you and I wouldn't have been talking.
Well, I would have never met you. Can you imagine?
Because I know, God, we would never have met. We would never be able to have these conversations. We would never be able to, have these conversations which make us grow, and, hopefully, give some people listening ideas about how they can grow. And through growing, through ascending, through developing, through opening our heart chakras, through doing our daily chakra work, our daily meditations, through understanding that we can co-create a beautiful future. We do this together, but we have to also understand that as important as we are as individuals, we need to be united in all ways in order to really affect the future, in order to really create change.
You can't be cynical, man. We don't have time for that shit. Oh, I'm going to be realistic. No, no, let's not, because it hasn't helped us. Let's stop being realistic. Let's understand a couple things about about metaphysics, okay? Which is science, okay? So I'm gonna talk about this real quick. So Dr. Joe Dispenza, okay, has been working with neurologists all over the world for a number of years. And one of the things that they do is they have been studying the brain waves while it goes into meditation. And it takes about 3 minutes before the brain waves start remapping itself. And if you've ever taken the time to look at his work and look at his some of his whatchamacallit, videos, right? He has some videos that you can look at on Gaia, GAIA.com. I strongly suggest that all of you listening, I'm not getting any perks from this, okay? I'm not getting shit. Go to Gaia.com and sign up. Because if you need to learn how to rewire the brain from this concept of helplessness and cynical repeating patterns that are acceptable. History repeats itself. His story, that story is not our story. Just like my incarnation isn't your incarnation. It doesn't have to repeat itself. We choose to collectively do that. We are like the 100 monkey theory. We choose, we can sway with one philosophy or another. And that's why there's this concept in spirituality that many of us are breaking into ascension, going into 5D, and some, I'm being real here, are being left behind in the Mad Max planet they've decided to co-create with the cynicism, and it's not realistic, and we can never do it, and we'll never come out of this. Those people will inherit that earth. And many of us, it's not a hierarchy, you guys. Any of you can actually fucking ascend. Any of you. It's you literally hacking your brains, hacking out of this. That's why many of us are taking ayahuasca and bufo and shit like that to just fucking blow our brainwashing to smithereens and reprogram ourselves. Some of us needed to do it. Many of you don't need to do that. Many of you, all you need to do is sit in meditation. And Joe Dispenza shows data that shows you can actually rewire your whole system. And once you rewire your whole system, you can actually co-create. Just your frequency will change, and that will put you in a different level of consciousness, attracting other opportunities that are in the same frequency match now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Joe Dispenza is amazing. And yeah, I agree with you. Gaia is an incredible resource for information and education. But I wish I could sit all day and watch Gaia. But
Yeah.
and also for star seeds, like
Yeah.
it's really difficult to get information about star seeds, but there are some amazing series on Atlantis, on star seeds, on people who are channeling various galactic beings. So yeah, Gaia is amazing, and Joe Dispenza's view of things is, it's from a scientific basis.
Yeah, that's right.
And his meditations are powerful. So he does a meditation about co-creation, and honestly, the breath work hurts, but it's worth it, because you feel your third eye opening. It's his meditations are amazing. Highly recommended. And Becoming Supernatural is a
Yes.
brilliant.
It's one of the best. And then you've got the, hang on, I was just trying to think about something here just in a minute, because my phone's dying in a minute, so I'm just going to let you know ahead of time. I'm trying to remember what it was. If you guys go on Gaia.com, okay, I suggest you look up Dr. Joe Dispenza, Matthias Di Stefano, Adam Apollo, Regina Meredith, Open Minds. It's her show, Open Minds. Just go down that rabbit hole, and it will be like a breath of fresh air. Your soul will be fed. You'll finally listen to very highly intellectual, intelligent people who will talk your language, your spiritual language. It is one of the most important things, and heal. Rock Easy is talking about heal. There must be a documentary. We have the knowledge, just asking the wrong questions to the wrong people, just a solution, not a problem. Exactly. And we need to understand the power of co-creation and the dynamics of the one, the singular person that can impact the many. That's why I had to step out of the life, because I was like, yeah, my energy, I can't do this. This is not going to work. It's not. I'm what is it? I'm wrestling in the mud with other people. I'm slipping and sliding. I'm not doing this. I want to create something that I want to see for all of us. And even if I never see it in my incarnation, that's not the point. Quite often, you plant trees whose fruits you will never see, you will never eat, but you do it because it's the right thing to do. And so we have to just trust that we are volunteers who came in to get this work done. And I think that part of you guys listening to other lives and listening to how angry people are, and how racist people are, and how uneducated people are, and how dogmatic, and how they just eat rhetoric like it's fucking sweet cakes. Once you get out of that fucking live, and you find your tribe, or you create your own live, I'm not kidding. Like after that live, I went back and said, let me go ahead and do a live, and let me see if I can do a guided meditation. Then I saw Andromeda step in. I saw many of you come in, and I was like, you know what? Let's just fucking talk. Let's talk about what is possible, not about, there's no way, it's only us and nothing else but us. It's like, fuck this, I'm out, and that's probably why I don't believe, no offense, guys, okay? I have a lot of respect for many, many religions. I totally see Yeshua in my visions. I kid you not. I'm not saying that to be, but I also see Krishna, just so you know. And so for me, at the end of the day, I can't actually follow any one religion for my own personal reasons, and it doesn't matter. What matters is that I've become more and more connected to source, and more connected to my own darkness, to heal it within myself, so that I could do the work of self-realization, you know what I mean, in my own. And no, I don't need somebody to tell me how to talk to God. I need to feel worthy of it. And my darkness kept me from feeling worthy of it. And that's no one could heal that for me. It's like no one can, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I can't come up with any, but anyway, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But we have that we have that within all of us, and wounds like unworthiness are they're universal. They're universal in humans, and we almost feel unworthy unworthy for the gifts we've been given, unworthy to have a relationship with God, or source energy, or the universe, however you choose to see it. Um, but yes, co-creation is our next step. It's our next mission.
Absolutely. Anyway, what's all about? Serious question. Seriously, what's that all about? Serious question. Oh, I don't know. Oh, you're asking Russell. I gotcha. Okay. Well, I want to kind of wrap it up only because my phone's dying and it's like probably 1 o'clock in the morning, and I have I've got some sessions tomorrow. But as usual, Andromeda, you're so amazing. I love your energy. I love your knowledge. You know so much. You're brilliant. I want to thank you, and I want to thank all of you for being here and helping us come up with solutions, at least in the way reframing the way we think and move through life, so that we can actually do massive self transformation and to ignite many people who want what we want, right? Which is just such simple lives, just with peace.
Yeah. And thank you so much as ever. You're such an inspiration. Thank you for having this platform. It's a platform of hope.
Yeah. And co-creation. We're all here. We all want you, and you. None of you guys would be here if you didn't believe in what we're talking about. If this was not resonating, you would have scrolled a long time ago. So you're here because there's a part of you that wants to live this life, or you want to at least see it come to be born. And on the wreckage and ravages of what's happened in Palestine, we got our eyes open. It's weird how it was COVID, it was multiple things that came into view, and now boom, this is massive what's happening to these people, and there are people. It's almost like we're all Palestinians right now. That's how I feel personally. We're all Palestinians, and what to them matters to me. It's like my cousins are out there and they're suffering, and it's not okay. And if we can actually try to change the energy and to collectively get the 99%, and out of the 99%, out of 8 billion people, right? Because it's only 1%, it's a very small number, folks. I don't even think it's 100 million. So if we could get out of 8 billion people, we get 4 billion people to believe in this new world, that we're good. We don't need more than that. In fact, I don't even think we need 4 billion, to be honest. How many how many do you think we need, Andromeda?
Who knows? I'm not sure. Um, I mean, look, this is just about like recognizing that we're all united. It would be great if it was the 99%,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure that's realistic.
No, it's not. I needed to see that today. I
Yeah.
needed to see, and I need to hear with my own two eyes. I've been seeing the horror of the other side, and that was very good. I needed to see that, so I wasn't so La La Land, Mary Poppins bullshit. Now I know what I'm dealing with, and now I know who to gather. And what I'm realizing is us who believe in spirituality, us who believe in in our own empowerment, us who remember our past lives in multiple, incarnations as multiple beings in this planet and other planets. We've embodied multiple religions, all of that. Those of us who believe in that, like the way you take a next breath, the way you drink water, that kind of ease. Yeah, those are the people we need to gather so that we can all be of one mind to create this, because it's not going to happen from people who are chewing the cud of rhetoric belief. It's just not gonna it's not gonna work. And there's nothing I'm not willing to. I'd rather spend the time on starseeds who don't want to be here anymore. My job on a side note, has been to make sure that to talk star seeds off the ledge so they don't say, fuck this, I'm out, this is ridiculous, these people don't know anything, they don't understand anything. Those are the people we need to survive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if there's, as well as, giving out energy with love, we
Yes.
also have to protect our energy.
Yes.
And part of that is recognizing when people are just not in a place where they can listen yet.
Yeah. They're
Um,
too, they're too wounded. They're too hurt. I get it.
yeah,
Too hurt. Yeah, anyway, all right. Well, I want to send you guys all much love. Thank you, Andromeda, as always. You're amazing. Amen. Thank you, Flowbug. And Rock Easy, Russell, LaFountain, all of you guys, The Night. I want to mention all your names. Andromeda Flame, thank you so much. I'm going to upload this live, and there's another live I've done with Andromeda Flame, so I'll upload both. Thank you for the conversation. I'm humbled. Thank you, Russell LaFountain, too. We're humbled. Okay, we're all in this together. We want to meet you. We want to know who you are. We want to know what your dreams are. We do have a Discord group. You may want to check it out. It's on my profile page. And we're doing a men's club also to keep men, the sacred masculine talking. And we're also doing Discord groups, female groups, circles of females, and then also co-ed, because we need to have you guys exchanging numbers and keeping in touch. I'm not kidding. You guys can't do this shit alone. You need to have your tribe, okay? All right, you will really appreciate the Heal documentary. You're very sweet. So, Andromeda, did you see that Heal documentary? So
yes.
I thank you, Rock Easy. I appreciate that. All right, been looking for you guys. Well, you found us. Follow Andromeda, follow me. Andromeda has great content that she creates and on twin flames and star seeds, and she's a Reiki master, and there's a lot more. And then just go ahead and check out the Discord. Please join it, and let's get together. Let's keep talking, and let's keep co-creating together. Sending you much love on your journey. Namaste. Be well.